Her fiancé left her at the altar for being fat, until his brother stood up. Jessica felt tears streaming down her face as the priest repeated for the third time if anyone had any objections to the marriage. The silence in the church was deafening. Brandon had vanished 20 minutes earlier, leaving only a note with the best man saying he couldn't marry her like this. The words in the note still echoed in her mind like knife wounds. "I can't marry someone who let herself get to this point. I'm sorry, but you're not the woman I knew." Jessica looked at the guests, about 80 people watching her with a mix of pity and discomfort. Her mother, Barbara, wept quietly in the front row, while her father, Robert, seemed ready to run after Brandon. I think... Jessica tried to speak, but her voice failed her. That's when Nathan, Brandon's younger brother, stood up from the second row. At 28, he had always been the opposite of his brother. Where Brandon was calculating and cold, Nathan was spontaneous and warm. He walked to the altar with steady steps, ignoring the whispers of the guests. "Jessica," he said, reaching out his hand to her, "you don't deserve this." "Nathan, you don't have to..." She tried to protest, but he cut her off. "My brother is an idiot, and everyone here knows it." The comment stirred murmurs in the church. Some guests looked shocked, while others nodded discreetly in agreement. Nathan turned to the congregation, his voice echoing off the marble walls of St. Mary's Church in downtown Portland. "You all came here today to celebrate love, not to witness a humiliation," he said, staring directly at some of Brandon's relatives who were whispering cruel remarks. "Jessica is one of the most generous people I know. If my brother can't... See that's his problem, not hers." Jessica felt a mix of gratitude and shame. She had indeed gained weight over the last 2 years. What started as a few extra pounds due to work stress had turned into an additional 80 pounds. Brandon had been making more and more frequent comments about her appearance, but she never imagined he'd leave her on their wedding day. "Let's get out of here," Nathan whispered to her. "You don't have to go through this in front of everyone." But before Jessica could respond, Mrs. Patricia, Brandon and Nathan's mother stood up. At 65, she was a formidable woman, owner of a high-end clothing store in the city center. Her grey hair was impeccably styled, and she wore a navy blue dress that accentuated her proud posture. "Nathan, sit down," she said firmly. "Your brother made the right decision. Marriage is serious and appearance does matter." The brutality of the words made Jessica stagger. Nathan immediately stepped closer, offering support. "Mom, you're being cruel," he shot back. "I'm being realistic," Mrs. Patricia replied, looking straight at Jessica. "My dear, you've changed a lot since you got engaged. Brandon has every right not to want to marry someone who doesn't take care of herself." Jessica's father, Robert, finally exploded. He rose from the front row, his face red with anger. "Enough!" he shouted. "No one will talk about my daughter like that." "Robert, control yourself," Barbara said, pulling her husband back to the pew. "I won't control myself," he retorted. "That spoiled boy humiliated our daughter in front of everyone, and now his mother has the nerve to defend him." The situation was quickly spiraling out of control. The priest, Father William, a 60-year-old man who had known Jessica's family, for decades tried to intervene. "Please, let's remain calm," he said. "This is a sacred place." But tensions were already too high. Several guests began to take sides, some defending Brandon, others criticizing his attitude. Jessica felt like she was in a nightmare. The day that was supposed to be the happiest of her life had turned into a public humiliation. That's when her best friend Emily approached the altar. She had been the maid of honor and was just as shocked as everyone else. "Jess, let's get out of here," she said, hugging her friend. "It's not worth listening to this." "But what about all the money we spent?" Jessica whispered through tears. "The party, the buffet, everything. Money can be replaced," Nathan said, still standing beside her. "Dignity is more important." At that moment, Brandon finally appeared at the church door. He had returned, but not alone. By his side was Taylor, a 25-year-old model who worked on advertising campaigns for his family's marketing agency. Seeing them together felt like a punch to Jessica's gut. "Brandon!" Nathan shouted, his voice echoing through the church. "What the hell are you doing?" "I came to get my things," Brandon replied coldly, walking down the aisle as if nothing had happened. The audacity of the situation left everyone in shock. Not only had he abandoned Jessica at the altar, but he'd also shown up with another woman at what was supposed to be their wedding. "Are you kidding me?" Robert stood up again, this time marching toward Brandon with clenched fists. "Dad, no!" Jessica screamed, running after him. The church erupted into chaos. Some guests tried to calm Robert down, while others argued among themselves about the situation. Taylor looked uncomfortable, clearly not expecting all this commotion. "Brandon, this is too much even for you," Nathan said, blocking his brother's path. "Stay out of it, Nathan," Brandon shot back. "You've always been too protective of the wrong people." "Wrong people?" Nathan asked, incredulous. "Jessica loved you for real. She changed her whole life to be with you. And look how that turned." "Hout," Brandon gestured toward Jessica. "She got comfortable, gained weight, became a completely different person." Brandon's words cut Jessica like knives. She had changed over the years, but not for lack of self-respect. Her job as an accountant at a major firm had become increasingly stressful. She spent 12 hours a day at the office, ate poorly, and had no time for exercise. The little free time she had, she dedicated to wedding preparations and Brandon's social commitments. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out as we're just starting. Now back to the story. "Enough," Barbara finally stood, her voice cutting through the uproar. "No more humiliation. Jessica, we're going home." "Mom, Jessica started but couldn't finish. Nathan stepped closer to her again. "Jessica, you don't have to listen to any more of this," he said gently. "Let me walk you to the car." "Thank you, Nathan," she replied, her voice barely a whisper. As they walked toward the exit, Brandon shouted after them, "Jessica, the apartment is mine. You have until Monday to get your things out." The coldness in his voice made Jessica stumble. Nathan caught her arm, keeping her from falling. "He can't do that," Nathan said. "You lived together for 3 years." "The apartment is in his name," Jessica answered, tears streaming again. "I never insisted on adding mine because he said it wasn't necessary." The reality of the situation settled over Jessica. Not only had she been publicly humiliated, but she was also about to lose her home. Over the last 3 years, she'd sold her small apartment to help Brandon pay for the larger one they shared. Now, not only single and humiliated, she was practically homeless. "You can stay with us while you get back on your feet," offered Barbara. "Mom, I'm 32, Jessica protested. "I can't move back in with you." "For now you can," Robert interjected, "until you get back on your feet." When they finally left St. Mary's Church, a small group of guests followed them. Emily, some of Jessica's cousins, and surprisingly Nathan. "Nathan, you don't have to come with us," said Barbara. "I know your family must be furious." "My family can be as furious as they want," he replied. "What my brother did was unacceptable." The church parking lot was full of cars decorated with flowers and ribbons, all ready for the celebration that wouldn't happen. The contrast between the cheerful decorations and the grim reality of the situation was devastating. "So now what?" asked Emily. "What do we do with all the food, the drinks, the venue?" "We'll cancel everything," said Robert. "At least try to get some of the money back." "Actually," Nathan interjected, "maybe we don't have to cancel everything." Everyone looked at him curiously. "How about we turn it into a celebration for Jessica?" he suggested. "The people who truly care about her can come. We'll celebrate her freedom and we won't waste everything that's been prepared." The idea took Jessica by surprise. For a moment she considered it, but soon dismissed it. "Nathan, thank you for the thought, but I don't have the strength for a party right now," she said. "I understand," he replied, "but think about it. You can't let my brother take everything from you. Your joy, your friends, your right to celebrate who you are." Nathan's words struck a chord deep within Jessica, but she was still too shaken to consider any celebration. On the way to her parents' house, Jessica stared out the car window and watched her life crumble. 3 years of a relationship, 2 years engaged, savings spent on the wedding, an apartment lost, a career stalled because of Brandon's demands. She had sacrificed so much for him, and in the end all he cared about was her appearance. "Sweetheart," Barbara said, breaking the silence, "I know it's hard right now, but you'll get through this." "How, Mom?" Jessica asked. I gave up. So much for him. My apartment, my independence, even job opportunities, because he thought I should focus on being a good wife. Robert, who had been driving in silence, finally spoke. That boy was never good enough for you. I always knew it. Why didn't you ever say anything? Jessica asked. Because you seemed happy, he answered, and I didn't want to be the annoying dad who interferes in his daughter's life. Now I see you were right, she admitted. When they arrived at her parents' house in Lake Oswego, Jessica was confronted with her old life. The room that had been hers during her teenage years still held some of her belongings. Posters of 2000s bands, college textbooks, photos with high school friends. It was like stepping back in time, but painfully. Emily had come along with the family and helped Jessica out of her wedding dress. Each piece of clothing removed felt like stripping away a layer of humiliation. Jess, I know it's hard, but maybe this is an opportunity, Emily said as she helped pack away the dress. An opportunity for what? Jessica asked, slipping into comfortable clothes for the first time in months. To be who you really are again, Emily replied. These past few years it felt like you were living the life Brandon wanted, not yours. Emily's observation was spot on. Jessica had changed a lot since she started dating Brandon. She used to be spontaneous, someone who loved to travel, explore new places, and try different foods. With Brandon, her life had become a rigid routine of gym, work, social events, where she always felt out of place and constant pressure to be perfect. You're right, Jessica admitted. I don't even recognize myself anymore. Then maybe it's time to find yourself again, Emily suggested. That night, Jessica couldn't sleep. She lay staring at the ceiling, thinking about how her life had taken this turn. When she met Brandon 5 years ago, she worked at a smaller company, earned less, but was happier. He convinced her to take a job at a multinational, where the pay was better, but the pressure was much greater. It's for our future, he always said. We need to save for the wedding, the house, the kids. Jessica had agreed because she truly loved Brandon and wanted to build a life with him. But in the process, she lost herself. Outings with friends became rare because Brandon always had some important social event. Hobbies were abandoned because there was no time left. Even her relationship with her family had cooled because Brandon thought she should prioritize his family. The next morning, Jessica woke up to the phone ringing. It was Nathan. Hi, Jessica, I hope you don't mind that I asked Emily for your number, he said. No, it's fine, she replied, still sleepy. I wanted to check in on you, and also to say I meant what I said about the party. If you change your mind, just let me know. Nathan, that's really kind of you, but I know, he interrupted. You're not ready. But I want you to know that not all of Brandon's family thinks like him and my mother. My dad is furious with how he acted. Your dad? Jessica was surprised, but he didn't even speak to me yesterday. He's shy about these things, but he spent the whole night arguing with Brandon. Said he dishonored the family with his behavior. The news brought Jessica a small comfort. Over the years of their relationship, she'd always gotten along well with Mr. Gary, Brandon, and Nathan's father. He was a simple man who had built his life working as a mechanic before opening his own shop. And how is Brandon? She asked, hating herself for still caring. Trying to justify the unjustifiable, Nathan answered. But deep down, I think he knows he messed up. It doesn't change anything, Jessica said. The key, damage is done. You're right, Nathan agreed. But I want you to know you're not alone in this. If you need help getting your things from the apartment or anything else, you can count on me. After hanging up, Jessica felt a little better. At least there were people who truly cared about her. But when she went downstairs for coffee, she faced a new reality. Her mother was on the phone, clearly trying to cancel wedding services. Yes, I understand your refund policy, but this is an exceptional situation, Barbara said into the phone. The groom left my daughter at the altar. Hearing her mother explain it to strangers was another stab at Jessica's pride. She imagined herself becoming the talk of the whole town. Did you hear about Robert's daughter? The groom left her at the altar because she was fat. Mom, let me handle this, Jessica said, taking the phone from Barbara's hands. Honey, you don't need to worry about this now, Barbara protested. Yes, I do, Jessica replied with a determination that surprised even herself. It's my life, my problems. I'll take care of it. Over the next 2 hours, Jessica called all the wedding vendors. The photographer was understanding and refunded half the payment. The caterer, however, wouldn't budge. "Ma'am, the food is already prepared," the manager said. "We can't refund anything. You can either keep the party or lose the money." "But what am I going to do with food for 200 people?" Jessica asked. "That's not our problem," he replied coldly. When the call ended, Jessica was furious. Not only had she been humiliated, but she was also losing a fortune. That's when she remembered Nathan's suggestion. Maybe she really should hold some kind of gathering. Not a celebration, but at least bring together the people who cared about her so nothing would go to waste. She called Nathan again. "Nathan, about your party idea," as she began. "Changed your mind?" he asked excitedly. "Sort of," she replied, "but I don't want anything too cheerful. Maybe just a lunch with close friends so the food doesn't go to waste." "Perfect," Nathan said. "I'll help organize everything. And Jessica?" "Yes? I'm sure you'll be okay." The sincerity in his voice brought tears to Jessica's eyes, but this time they were tears of gratitude, not sadness. The rest of the morning was spent making a new guest list. Instead of the original 200 people, Jessica invited only about 50 who truly cared about her. Family, real friends, a few close co-workers. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Emily asked when Jessica called to share the plan. "I am," Jessica replied. "I can't hide forever. And at least this way I control the narrative of my own story." "I like it," Emily said. "That's the Jessica I know coming back." When Robert heard about the plan, he offered to help. "Sweetheart, if you're going to face this, do it with your head held high," he said. "I'll be right by your side." "Dad, you don't have to—" "Yes, I do," he interrupted. "That boy may have hurt you, but you're my daughter, and I'll support you no matter what." Her father's determination encouraged Jessica even more. For the first time since the day before, she felt in control. That afternoon, Nathan showed up at Jessica's parents' house to help with preparations. He brought a list of everything that had been booked and suggestions for adapting it to the new plan. "The venue is already decorated," he said. "We can keep the flowers, but maybe remove some of the more romantic touches, like the wedding arch," Jessica suggested. "Exactly," he agreed. "And we can change the playlist to something livelier, less wedding-y." Working on the arrangements gave Jessica a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in a long time. During the original wedding planning, everything had been decided by Brandon or his parents. Now, for the first time in years, she was making her own choices. "Nathan," she said as they reviewed the guest list, "can I ask you something?" Of course. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "Helping an ex-sister-in-law who technically wasn't even your sister-in-law." Nathan stopped what he was doing and looked at her seriously. "Because you deserve people who genuinely care about you," he said. "And because my brother was an idiot who didn't appreciate an amazing person." His words touched Jessica in a way she hadn't expected. It had been so long since anyone spoke about her with such warmth and respect. "Thank you," she said, feeling the words weren't enough to express her gratitude. "Don't mention it," Nathan replied. "It's the least I can do." That night, Jessica spent hours deciding what to wear the next day. Every outfit seemed to remind her of moments with Brandon, social events where she felt out of place, dinners where he commented on her appearance. Finally, she chose a blue dress she'd bought years before meeting Brandon. It was a dress that made her feel beautiful and confident, even with the extra weight. "That dress looks beautiful on you," said Barbara when she saw her daughter's choice. "You think so?" Jessica asked, looking at herself in the mirror. "I do," Barbara replied. "And do you know why? Because when you wear that dress, you smile. I hadn't seen you truly smile in a long time." Her mother's observation made Jessica realize just how sad she had become over the past few years. The constant pressure from Brandon to be perfect had drained her natural joy. "Mom," she said, "thank you for supporting me even when I made bad choices." "Honey, they weren't bad choices," Barbara answered. "You loved him and wanted to fight for the relationship. There's nothing wrong with that. What was wrong was him not valuing you." On the morning of the event, Jessica woke up more excited than she had felt in months. For the first time in a long while, she was doing something she truly wanted, not something expected of her. Nathan arrived early to help with the final preparations. He brought fresh flowers to replace some of the more romantic decorations, as well as a surprise. "Remember the band that played at my birthday last year?" he asked. "Yes, they were really good," Jessica replied. "I convinced them to play today," he said, smiling. "No extra cost. They're friends of mine." "Nathan, you didn't have to," Jessica began. "I wanted to," he interrupted. "You deserve live music." When they arrived at the venue, Jessica was amazed by how the space had been transformed. The wedding decorations had been adapted to create a warm and cheerful atmosphere without the obvious matrimonial elements. "It's perfect," she said, genuinely impressed. "You really like it?" Nathan asked, seeming anxious for her approval. "I love it," Jessica replied. "Thank you for making this possible." The first guests began arriving around noon. Emily was one of the first, bringing a bouquet of flowers. "For the bravest woman I know," she said, handing the flowers to Jessica. "I don't feel brave," Jessica admitted. "But you are," Emily answered. "Bravery isn't about not being afraid. It's about doing what needs to be done even when you are." Little by little, the hall filled with people who truly cared about Jessica. Her uncles, some cousins, college friends, co-workers who had become true friends. It was a smaller gathering than the planned wedding, but far warmer. To Jessica's surprise, Mr. Gary, Brandon, and Nathan's father showed up at the event. He was a man in his 60s, with graying hair and hands calloused from decades of working as a mechanic. "Mr. Gary," Jessica said, genuinely touched by his presence. "Thank you for coming." "Sweetheart, I had to be here," he said, clearly emotional. "I want you to know not everyone in the family thinks like my oldest son. What he did was shameful." "You don't have to explain," Jessica replied. "Yes, I do," Mr. Gary insisted. "You were always good to our family, and I'm proud to be here, supporting you." Mr. Gary's presence further validated Jessica's decision to hold the event. She realized she had earned the respect of important people, even if she had lost Brandon. During lunch, Nathan stood up to give a speech. "I'd like to say a few words," he began, capturing everyone's attention. "We're all here today to show support for someone very special. Jessica, you went through something no woman should ever have to endure, but the way you handled it, with dignity and strength, shows exactly the kind of person you are." Applause echoed through the hall. Jessica felt wrapped in a wave of affection she hadn't experienced in years. "Thank you, Nathan," she said as he sat beside her. "Your words mean so much." "It's the truth," he replied, "and I want you to know you can count on me for anything." During the party, Jessica caught herself laughing genuinely for the first time in months. The conversations flowed naturally, without the social pressure she always felt at Brandon's events. She was being herself, and people liked who she truly was. "You're glowing," her cousin Ashley remarked. "Not like you've been lately." "How was I?" Jessica asked, curious. "Tense, always worried about pleasing others," Ashley answered. "Today, you're relaxed, natural." The observation made Jessica reflect on how she'd changed during her relationship with Brandon, not just physically but emotionally. She'd become an anxious person, always afraid of disappointing. When the band started playing, Nathan asked her to dance. "I'm not a good dancer," Jessica protested. "Neither am I," he laughed. "But let's try anyway." Dancing with Nathan was liberating. He didn't criticize her steps, didn't mind if she stepped on his feet. He just had fun. It was the complete opposite of dancing with Brandon, who always corrected her posture or commented on her lack of coordination. "Thank you," Jessica said when the song ended. "For what?" Nathan asked. "For reminding me how good it feels to have fun without worrying about being perfect," she replied. "Jessica," Nathan said, his voice growing serious, "you're perfect just as you are. Anyone who can't see that doesn't deserve you." His words touched a deep wound Brandon had left. For years, she'd believed she needed to change to be loved. Nathan was saying the exact opposite. "Do you really believe that?" she asked. "With all my heart," he answered. For a moment, Jessica allowed herself to believe it too. The event lasted until late afternoon. As the last guests left, Jessica felt exhausted, but also renewed. She'd proven to herself she could be happy without Brandon. "How do you feel?" Nathan asked as they helped clean up the hall. "Better," Jessica replied. "Much better than I thought I would." "Good," he said, smiling. "You deserve to feel like this always." "Nathan," Jessica said, pausing as she put away decorations, "can I ask you something personal?" "Of course." "Why are you so different from Brandon?" she asked. "You're brothers, but you're complete opposites." Nathan thought for a moment before answering. "I guess we grew up seeing the world differently," he said. "Brandon always wanted status to impress others. I've always cared more about being happy and making the people around me happy." "And are you happy?" Jessica asked. "Mostly, yes," he replied. "I work at what I love, have good friends, a family I adore, even when we disagree. And you? Were you happy with my brother?" The question took Jessica by surprise. She'd never really stopped to think about it. "I thought I was," she said, slowly. "Or at least I thought I should be. We had what everyone considers a successful relationship. Financial stability, plans for the future, social status." "But that's not the same as being happy," Nathan observed. "No, it's not," Jessica agreed. "I wasn't happy. I was always anxious, always trying to be someone I'm not." "And now?" Nathan asked. "Now I don't know," Jessica admitted. "I'm hurt, confused, lost, but I also feel like I'm waking up from a bad dream." "That's the beginning," Nathan said. "The first step to finding real happiness." When they finished organizing the hall, Nathan offered Jessica a ride. "Thank you, but my dad is picking me up," she said. "All right," Nathan replied. "But Jessica, I want you to know this isn't goodbye. I hope we can still be friends." "You'd want that?" she asked. "Even with all the family drama?" "Especially because of the family drama," he laughed. "Someone needs to represent the decent side of the family." The response drew a genuine smile from Jessica. "I'd really like to stay friends with you," she said. When Robert arrived to pick up Jessica, she was in a very different emotional state than the day before. There was still pain and sadness, but now there was also hope. "How did it go, sweetheart?" Robert asked as they drove home. "Better than I expected," Jessica answered. "I realized I have people who truly care about me." "You always did," Robert said. "It was just hard to see through all that fog Brandon created around you." "What fog?" Jessica asked. "The fog of insecurity," Robert explained. "He made you question your own worth, isolated you from the people who truly loved you. It's a common tactic for controlling people." Her father's observation made Jessica reflect on how many friendships she'd lost during her relationship with Brandon. He always found flaws in her friends, always had something more important to do when she wanted to spend time with them. "Dad, how did you and Mum know he wasn't good for me?" she asked. "You changed," Robert answered simply. "Our cheerful, spontaneous daughter became anxious and unsure of herself. At first, we thought it was stress from the new job, but then we realized it was tied to the relationship." "Why didn't you ever say anything?" Jessica asked. "Because you wouldn't have listened," he admitted honestly. "When we're in love, it's hard to accept criticism about the person we care for. We'd rather be here to support you when you needed us." Her parents' wisdom touched Jessica deeply. They had respected her choices, even when they disagreed, and were there when she needed them most. "Thank you for not giving up on me," she said. "Sweetheart, parents never give up on their children," Robert replied. "We might worry, we might be sad or frustrated, but we never give up." That night, Jessica slept better than she had in weeks. For the first time since the wedding disaster, she felt in control of her own life. The following Monday, Jessica faced her first big decision post-Brandon, retrieving her things from the apartment. Nathan had offered to go with her, an offer she gratefully accepted. "Are you sure you want to come?" she asked when they met in front of the building. "I'm sure," Nathan said. "Besides, I know my brother. He might try to make things difficult." They went up together to the apartment Jessica had called home for 3 years. Brandon was there, along with Taylor, making the situation even more awkward. "I came to get my things," Jessica said, trying to keep her voice steady. "They're all boxed up in the bedroom," Brandon replied coldly. not even bothering to look at her. Jessica walked through the apartment she knew by heart, but that now felt strange and hostile. Every room held memories that had turned painful. "Jessica," Nathan said softly, "do you want me to come with you?" "I do," she answered, grateful for the company. In what had once been their bedroom, Jessica found her belongings carelessly packed into cardboard boxes. Wrinkled clothes, personal items tossed in without care, photos of them together torn up and thrown in the trash. "He tore up our pictures," she said, staring at the pieces in the trash. "Do you want to take them?" Nathan asked. "No," Jessica answered after a moment of thought. "I don't want memories that will hurt me." As she checked her belongings, Jessica realized many items were missing. Jewelry she had received as gifts, books, some furniture she had brought from her old apartment. "Brandon," she said, walking back into the living room, "where are my other things?" "What other things?" he asked, pretending not to know what she meant. "My books, the jewelry, the armchair that belonged to my grandmother," Jessica listed. "Oh, that," Brandon said dismissively. "Some were gifts I gave you, so they stay with me. Others I sold because they were taking up space." "What do you mean you sold my things?" Jessica asked, incredulous. "They were old things no one used anyway," he replied. Nathan stood up from the chair where he was sitting. "Brandon, that's theft," he said, his voice filled with anger. "Stay out of it, Nathan," Brandon shot back. "This is between me and her." "I won't let you steal her things," Nathan insisted. "Let her prove they were hers," Brandon challenged. The argument was escalating quickly. Taylor, who had stayed quiet until then, seemed uncomfortable with the situation. "Brandon, maybe you should return her things," she said timidly. "You stay out of it too," Brandon snapped at her. "Don't talk to me like that," Taylor replied, her voice growing firmer. "I'll talk however I want," Brandon retorted. At that moment, Jessica had a revelation about who Brandon truly was. She was seeing firsthand how he treated people when he didn't get his way. And if he treated Taylor, his new girlfriend, like that, how would he treat her in the future? "Taylor," Jessica said calmly, "can I give you some advice?" Taylor looked at her, curious. "If he treats you like this now, at the start of the relationship, imagine how he'll treat you in a few years," Jessica said. "Jessica, don't fill her head with your frustrations," Brandon interjected. "They're not frustrations," Jessica replied. "They're facts. He left you at the altar because of your appearance. Today, he's yelling at you for having an opinion. Think about that." Taylor seemed to absorb Jessica's words. For a moment, she looked at Brandon as if seeing him for the first time. "Brandon, I think you should return her things," Taylor said. "I can't believe you're taking her side," Brandon exploded. "I'm not taking sides," Taylor answered. "I'm trying to be fair." The argument continued for a few more minutes, but eventually, Brandon gave in and returned most of Jessica's belongings. Not because he wanted to, but because he realized he was losing Taylor with his behavior. "Thank you," Jessica said to Taylor before leaving. "You're welcome," Taylor replied, "and thank you for the advice." As they left the apartment, Nathan helped Jessica carry the boxes to the car. "You were amazing in there," he said. "The way you handled everything." "I didn't feel amazing," Jessica admitted. "I felt humiliated all over again." "But you didn't let him intimidate you," Nathan observed. "You stood up for your rights and even helped Taylor see the truth." "She seemed like a good person," Jessica said. "Just involved with the wrong man." "Like you were," Nathan said gently. "That's true," Jessica agreed. "I hope she's luckier than I was and gets out of this sooner." On the way back to her parents' house, Jessica felt as though she was closing an important chapter of her life. It wasn't a happy ending, but it was a necessary one. "Nathan," she said, "thank you for coming with me today. I couldn't have faced this alone." "Yes, you could," he replied. "You're stronger than you think." "I don't feel strong," she admitted. "Strength isn't about never falling," Nathan said. "Strength is getting back up every time you fall." His words echoed in Jessica's mind for the rest of the day. Maybe he was right. Maybe she was stronger than she thought. That week, Jessica began reorganizing her life. First, she needed to find a place to live. Staying at her parents' house was comfortable, but she knew she had to regain her independence. Emily helped her look for apartments. They spent several afternoons visiting places, most of them either beyond Jessica's budget or in poor condition. "What about this one?" Emily asked, showing her an ad in the newspaper. "It's too small," Jessica replied, discouraged. "But it's clean, well located, and fits your budget," Emily argued. "You're right," Jessica admitted. "I'm being too picky." When they visited the apartment, Jessica was pleasantly surprised. It was indeed small, but it had a welcoming energy that the apartment with Brandon never had. "It's perfect for a fresh start," said the landlady, Mrs. Dorothy, a 70-year-old woman who lived in the apartment below. "You seem like you need a new beginning." "How do you know?" Jessica asked, curious. "Life experience." Mrs. Dorothy smiled. "I've been through it too." "Were you also left at the altar?" Jessica blurted out before she could stop herself. "Not exactly," Mrs. Dorothy laughed. "But I've had my heart broken by a man who didn't deserve me. At the time, I thought it was the end of the world. Now I see it was the start of my real life." Mrs. Dorothy's words gave Jessica hope. If a 70-year-old woman could overcome heartbreak and find happiness, so could she. "I'll take the apartment," Jessica decided on the spot. "Are you sure?" Emily asked, surprised by the quick decision. "I am," Jessica replied. "I feel like this is the right place to start over." At work, Jessica faced another challenge. The story of her disastrous marriage had spread among her colleagues, and she could feel their pitying looks and whispers behind her back. Jessica, her boss, Jennifer, called her for a private talk. "How are you holding up?" "I'm getting back on my feet," Jessica answered honestly. "If you need a few days off," Jennifer offered. "Thank you, but I'd rather work," Jessica said. "I need to keep my mind busy." "I understand," Jennifer replied. "But if you change your mind, just say the word." Over the next few days, Jessica realized that working really did help. It was a positive distraction that gave her a sense of normalcy and productivity. But not everything was easy. At night, alone in her childhood bedroom at her parents' house, Jessica battled waves of sadness and self-doubt. Moments where she questioned if Brandon was right, if she had really let herself go and become someone unworthy of love. It was during one of these difficult nights that Nathan called. "Hi, Jessica, how are you?" he asked. "Honestly," she replied, "having a rough night." "Want to talk about it?" he offered. "I don't want to burden you with my problems," Jessica said. "You're not burdening me," Nathan answered. "That's what friends are for." Jessica felt warmed by the word friends. It had been a while since someone referred to her that way. "It's just, sometimes I keep thinking," she began, hesitantly, "what if he's right? What if I really let myself go and became someone not worth loving?" "Jessica," Nathan said firmly, "stop that right now." "But," "No buts," he interrupted. "You are worth loving exactly as you are. Anyone who makes you feel otherwise doesn't deserve a second of your time." "How can you be so sure?" she asked. "Because I know you," Nathan replied. "I've known you for years, and you've always been an amazing person. Brandon's the one who lost sight of that, not you. You didn't change for the worse." "Thank you," Jessica said, feeling a little better. "You're welcome," Nathan replied. "And Jessica?" "Yes?" "If you have more bad nights, you can call me, anytime." The sincerity in his offer brought tears to Jessica's eyes, but they were tears of gratitude. Over the weekend, Jessica moved into her new apartment. Even with her parents' and Emily's help, it was an emotionally draining process. Every item she unpacked carried memories, and she had to decide what to keep and what to leave behind. "Who gave you this one?" Emily asked, holding a ceramic vase. "From Brandon," Jessica answered. "Our first year together." "Are you keeping it?" Emily asked. Jessica looked at the vase for a long moment. "No," she finally said. "I'll donate it. I don't want to be reminded of him every time I look at something." "Good decision," Emily approved. Nathan showed up in the late afternoon to help with the heavier furniture. He brought a plant as a housewarming gift. "A succulent," he said, handing the pot to Jessica. "They're hard to kill, perfect for new beginnings." "It's beautiful," Jessica said, genuinely touched by the gesture. "Thank you." "You're welcome," Nathan replied. And if you need help fixing anything in the apartment, just call. I'm good with tools. I'll remember that, Jessica smiled. When everyone had left and Jessica was alone in her new apartment, she felt a mix of emotions. There was sadness for the life she'd left behind, but also excitement for the possibilities ahead. She sat on the empty living room floor, eating pizza straight from the box, and for the first time in a long while, she felt at peace. It was her home, her rules, her choices. The following Monday, Jessica returned to work with a different energy. There was something freeing about not having to worry about getting home to please Brandon or attend some social event she didn't want to. You seem different, commented Megan, a close co-worker. Different how? Jessica asked. Lighter, Megan answered, like a weight's been lifted off your shoulders. The observation made Jessica reflect on how she'd been these past few years. There really had been a constant weight, an anxiety about always trying to be perfect for Brandon. During lunch, Megan invited her out with a group of friends over the weekend. Nothing crazy, she said, just dinner and maybe a little dancing after. I don't know, Jessica hesitated. I'm still adjusting to single life. That's exactly why you should come, Megan insisted. It's not about meeting anyone, just having fun. Jessica thought about the offer. During her relationship with Brandon, nights out with friends were rare and always led to arguments. He always thought she should prefer staying home with him. You know what? She finally said. I'll go. Great, Megan cheered. It'll be fun. That night, Jessica called Nathan to tell him about the invitation. That's good, he said. You need to have fun. I'm nervous, Jessica admitted. It's been so long since I've gone out just to enjoy myself. It's like riding a bike, Nathan said. You don't forget. But what? If I can't have fun, she asked. What if I just end up comparing everything to how it was before? Then you leave, Nathan answered simply. Nothing's forcing you to stay somewhere you're not comfortable. The simplicity of his answer reassured Jessica. She didn't have to prove anything to anyone, not even herself. Thank you, she said. You always know what to say. It's because I care about you, Nathan replied. His words sent a strange flutter through Jessica's stomach, a feeling she hadn't had in a long time. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. On Saturday night, Jessica got ready to go out with her friends. She chose a dress that made her feel beautiful and confident without worrying whether it was appropriate or if Brandon would approve. The restaurant her friends picked was cozy and laid back, very different from the upscale places Brandon always preferred. Jessica was surprised by how comfortable she felt there. So, how are you handling all this? Asked Rachel, another co-worker. Better than I expected, Jessica answered honestly. At first it was terrible, but now I'm starting to see some positives. Like what? I asked Megan. Like being able to choose what I want to do when I want to do it, Jessica said, and figuring out who my real friends are. That's true, Rachel agreed. Hard times have a way of separating the people who truly care from those who are just there for convenience. During dinner, Jessica caught herself laughing more than she had in months. Her friends shared funny stories, workplace gossip, and plans for the future. It was light-hearted and fun, without the social pressure she always felt at Brandon's events. Now, should we go dancing? Megan asked when they finished eating. I don't know, Jessica hesitated. Oh, come on, Rachel insisted. You need to let loose. The club they chose was small and casual, playing a mix of American and international music. At first, Jessica felt out of place, but her friends encouraged her to relax. Stop thinking and just move, Megan shouted over the music. Little by little, Jessica let herself go with the rhythm. It was freeing to dance without worrying about looking elegant or sophisticated. She could just have fun. You're glowing, Rachel yelled, dancing beside her, and Jessica really did feel that way. For the first time in years, she was doing something purely for enjoyment, with no hidden agenda or outside expectations. When they returned to the table for water, a guy approached and asked Jessica to dance. Thanks, but I'm not interested, she replied politely. Are you sure? He pressed. I am, Jessica confirmed without feeling bad for saying no. After he walked away, Megan praised her. I loved how you handled that. Firm, but polite. I've learned I don't have to accept things I don't want just to be nice, Jessica answered. It was an important lesson she'd taken from her situation with Brandon. For years, she'd put up with behavior that bothered her, just to keep the peace in their relationship. By the time she got home, it was nearly 3 a.m., but Jessica felt energized rather than tired. She'd had genuine fun without guilt or worry. On Sunday morning, she called Emily to tell her about the night. "I'm so glad you had fun," Emily said. "I was afraid you'd be stuck dwelling on the past." "At first I thought I would be," Jessica admitted. "But it was the opposite. I felt free." "That's a really good sign," Emily said. "It means you're truly moving on." "I think so," Jessica agreed. "It still hurts, but not like the paralyzing pain from the beginning." The following week, Jessica got an unexpected call. It was Taylor. "Hi, Jessica. I hope you don't mind me calling," she said, sounding nervous. "No, it's fine," Jessica replied, curious about the reason. "I wanted to thank you for what you said at the apartment," Taylor continued. "You were right about Brandon." "What happened?" Jessica asked. "He broke up with me yesterday," Taylor answered. "He said I was becoming too questioning and that I wasn't as fun as I used to be." Jessica wasn't surprised by the news. It was typical of Brandon to discard people when they started questioning his behavior. "I'm so sorry," said Jessica, and she truly meant it. "I'm the one who should apologize," Taylor replied, "for everything that happened. I didn't know he was engaged when we started seeing each other." "What do you mean?" Jessica asked, confused. "He told me you two had broken up months ago," Taylor explained, "that the wedding had been called off because you realized you weren't compatible." The revelation was a shock to Jessica. Brandon hadn't just cheated on her, he'd also lied to Taylor about the whole situation. "Taylor, when did you two start seeing each other?" Jessica asked. "About 4 months ago," Taylor answered hesitantly. 4 months. That meant Brandon had been cheating on Jessica since before the final wedding preparations. While she was stressing over party details, picking out a dress, dieting to lose weight for him, Brandon was already with someone else. "Jessica, are you still there?" Taylor asked when the silence stretched. "I am," Jessica replied, her voice steadier than she expected. "And thank you for telling me the truth." "Of course," Taylor said. "You deserve to know." After hanging up, Jessica sat in her new armchair and processed the information. Paradoxically, instead of feeling more hurt, she felt relieved. The betrayal confirmed the problem had never been with her. Brandon was simply a dishonest man who didn't appreciate the people who loved him. She called Nathan to share the news. "I can't believe he did that," Nathan said, clearly furious. 4 months! He was cheating on you for 4 months. "I know," Jessica answered. "But you know what's strange? I feel relieved." "Relieved?" Nathan asked, surprised. "Yes," she explained, "because now I'm absolutely sure the decision wasn't about my weight or my appearance. It was about his character." "You're right," Nathan agreed. "He's a coward who didn't have the guts to end things properly." "Exactly," Jessica said. "And now I can stop blaming myself for anything." This revelation marked a turning point in Jessica's emotional recovery. She stopped questioning her own worth and began to see the situation for what it really was, a reflection of Brandon's lack of character. At work, Jessica started dedicating herself more to projects. Without the constant distractions of the troubled relationship, she could focus better, and her productivity increased significantly. "Jessica, I need to talk to you," Jennifer said during a meeting. "Of course," Jessica replied, hoping it wasn't bad news. "I want to offer you the lead on the company's new project," Jennifer said. "It's a big responsibility, but I think you're ready." The offer caught Jessica by surprise. It was an opportunity she'd always wanted, but never thought she'd get. "Jennifer, she began. "Before you answer, I want you to know this decision is based purely on your work," Jennifer clarified. "You've been excelling these past few weeks." "I accept," Jessica said without hesitation. "I absolutely accept." "Great," Jennifer smiled. "We'll discuss the details tomorrow." When Jessica left the meeting, she was radiant. This was the first major professional achievement she'd earned without Brandon's influence. It was purely her merit, her work, her dedication. She called her parents first to share the news. "Sweetheart, we're so proud," Barbara said. "We always knew you were capable of great things." "Thank you, Mom," Jessica replied. "I still can't believe I did it." "You did it because you deserve it," Robert added on the phone, "and with no one holding you back anymore." The father's last words held special meaning. During her relationship with Brandon, he had always discouraged Jessica's professional ambitions, saying she should focus on building a family. Afterward, she called Nathan to share her joy. "Jessica, that's fantastic," he said, genuinely excited. "You deserve all the success in the world." "Thank you," she replied. "I want to celebrate, but I'm not sure how." "How about dinner together?" Nathan suggested. "To celebrate your promotion." "You'd like that?" Jessica asked. "I'd love to," he answered. "You pick the place." Jessica chose a small, cozy restaurant downtown, very different from the upscale places she used to go with Brandon. It was somewhere she felt comfortable being herself. "Congratulations on the promotion," Nathan said when they met at the restaurant, handing her a small bouquet of flowers. "Nathan, you didn't have to," Jessica said, touched by the gesture. "I wanted to," he replied. "You deserve to be celebrated." Over dinner, they talked about work, family, and dreams for the future. The conversation flowed easily, without the tension Jessica always felt when she went out with Brandon. "Can I ask you something?" Nathan said as they had dessert. "Of course," Jessica replied. "Are you happy?" he asked. "Truly happy?" Jessica thought for a moment before answering. "Yes," she said, realizing it was true. "For the first time in a long while, I am happy. Not completely. I still have hard days. But I'm on the right path." "That's good," Nathan smiled. "You deserve to be happy." "And you?" Jessica asked. "Are you happy?" "I am," Nathan answered. "Especially seeing you bounce back the way you have. I'm really proud of you." His words stirred that strange feeling in Jessica's stomach again. She was starting to recognize what it was, but she wasn't ready to face it yet. "Thank you for being by my side through all of this," she said. "I don't know what I would have done without your friendship." "I'll always be here," Nathan replied. "You can count on me." When Nathan dropped her off after dinner, Jessica caught herself thinking about him differently. For all the time she had known Nathan as Brandon's brother-in-law, she had always seen him as a dear friend. But now, free from her relationship with Brandon, she was starting to see him in a new light. He was everything Brandon wasn't. Kind where Brandon had been harsh, generous where Brandon had been selfish, encouraging where Brandon had been critical. Nathan made her feel valued and respected, feelings she had forgotten existed. But the situation was complicated. Nathan was Brandon's brother, and even though things with Brandon had ended terribly, starting something with Nathan could create significant family complications. Jessica decided not to dwell on it for now. She was finally in a good place emotionally, and she didn't want to complicate things. At work, the new project turned out to be more challenging than Jessica had expected, but also more rewarding. She was leading a team of 5 to develop a new marketing strategy for an important client. "Jessica, do you have any leadership experience?" asked Michael, one of the team members who was a few years older than her. "Not formally," she admitted, "but I'm willing to learn, and I always try to listen to the team." "That's all we need," Michael replied. "A leader who listens is a leader who succeeds." The comment encouraged Jessica. She was discovering leadership skills she never knew she had. During her relationship with Brandon, she had grown used to following his decisions, rarely voicing her own opinions. A few weeks after the dinner with Nathan, Jessica received an unexpected call. It was Mrs. Patricia, the mother of Brandon and Nathan. "Jessica, can we talk?" she asked, her voice less haughty than Jessica remembered. "Of course, Mrs. Patricia," Jessica replied, curious about the reason for the call. "I'd prefer in person," she said. "Can you come to my house? Or I can come to you, if you'd like." "I can come to you," Jessica offered, though she felt nervous about the meeting. The following Saturday, Jessica went to Brandon's family home. It was a large house in the upscale neighborhood of the city, where she had spent many Sundays during their relationship. Mrs. Patricia greeted her in the main living room, the same place where many discussions about their marriage had taken place. "Thank you for coming," Mrs. Patricia said, seeming more humble than Jessica had ever seen her. "It's no trouble," Jessica replied, still wondering what the purpose of the meeting was. "I want to apologize to you," Mrs. Patricia said directly, "for what I said at the church, for how I treated you. It was cruel and unnecessary." The sincerity in her voice took Jessica by surprise. "Mrs. Patricia," she began. "Let me finish," Mrs. Patricia interrupted. "Over the past few weeks, watching everything unfold, I realize I was wrong, very wrong. You've always been a good person, and it was my son who failed to appreciate you." "Thank you for saying that," Jessica replied. "It means a lot to me." "And there's more," Mrs. Patricia continued. "Brandon told me about the affair, that he had been seeing that other girl for months before the wedding. That was unacceptable." "You didn't know?" Jessica asked. "I had no idea," Mrs. Patricia answered. "If I had, I would have made him end things with you properly, not in the cowardly way he did." "I appreciate your honesty," Jessica said. "I also want you to know that I've always liked you," Mrs. Patricia went on. "Maybe I didn't show it the right way, but I did. You were good for my family." "Were?" Jessica asked. "Are," Mrs. Patricia corrected. "You still are, especially for Nathan." The comment about Nathan made Jessica tense. "What do you mean?" she asked. "He won't stop talking about you," Mrs. Patricia said with a small smile. "About how strong you are, how well you're bouncing back, what a special person you are." "We're friends," Jessica said quickly. "I know," Mrs. Patricia replied. "And so does he. But a mother notices these things." "Mrs. Patricia," Jessica began, uncomfortable with where the conversation was heading. "I'm not asking for anything," Mrs. Patricia clarified. "I just want you to know that if you two ever decide you're more than friends, you'll have my support." The conversation left Jessica with a lot to think about. Mrs. Patricia's apology had been genuine and meaningful, but the comment about Nathan stirred up feelings she had been trying to ignore. That night, Jessica called Emily to talk about the meeting. "Brandon's mother apologized?" Emily asked, disbelieving. "She did," Jessica confirmed, "and she seemed sincere." "That's good," Emily said. "It shows she recognizes they were wrong." "Yes, but she also said something about Nathan," Jessica mentioned hesitantly. "What did she say?" Emily asked. "That he talks about me a lot, and that she'd support it if something happened between us," Jessica explained. "And how do you feel about that?" Emily asked. "I'm confused," Jessica admitted. "Nathan is an amazing person, but the situation is complicated." "Because of Brandon?" Emily asked. "Partly," Jessica replied, "and also because I don't know if I'm ready for another relationship." "Jess," Emily said gently, "you don't have to decide anything right now, but you also don't have to deny yourself happiness just because the situation is a little complicated." Emily's words echoed in Jessica's mind in the days that followed. Was she really denying herself the chance at happiness because of imaginary complications? The following week, the work project was reaching a critical phase. Jessica's team had developed an innovative proposal, but they needed to present it to the client in an important meeting. "Are you nervous?" Megan asked before the presentation. "A little," Jessica admitted. "It's my first big presentation as project lead." "You'll do great," Megan encouraged. "Your proposal is brilliant." The presentation went better than Jessica expected. The client was impressed by the creativity and feasibility of the proposal, and by the end of the meeting, they signed the contract. "Congratulations, Jessica," Jennifer said afterward. "That was an excellent presentation." "Thank you," Jessica replied, still processing the success. "And there's more good news," Jennifer continued. "With this success, the board approved your official promotion to project manager." The news was even better than Jessica had hoped. In just a few months, she had gone from being left at the altar to a rising professional. When she left the office, Jessica felt a sense of accomplishment she hadn't experienced in years. She had proven to herself that she was capable of great things when not held back by someone else's expectations and criticism. She called Nathan to share the good news. "Jessica, that's fantastic. he said, his voice full of pride. "You deserve all this success." "Thank you," she replied. "I want to celebrate, but I'm not sure how." "Leave it to me," Nathan said. "I'll organize a special celebration for you." "Nathan, you don't have to," Jessica began. "I want to," he interrupted. "You deserve to be celebrated properly." The following Saturday, Nathan took Jessica to a special place she had never visited before, a small restaurant in a nearby town known for its home-style cooking and cozy atmosphere. "How do you know this place?" Jessica asked as they drove down the rural road. "I've been coming here since I was a kid," Nathan replied. "My grandparents lived in this town, and we always stopped at this restaurant when we visited them." "It's beautiful here," Jessica said, gazing at the mountains and farmland. "I thought you'd like it," Nathan said. "It's a place where you can just be yourself." The restaurant was exactly as Nathan had described, simple, welcoming, with delicious food, and an atmosphere that made anyone feel at home. "Thank you for bringing me here," Jessica said as they ate. "It's perfect. I wanted you to see a place that's special to me," Nathan replied. "Why?" she asked. Nathan hesitated for a moment before answering. "Because you've become special to me," he said simply. His words created a moment of silence between them. Jessica felt her heart race, but she still didn't know how to respond. "Nathan," she began. "I know the situation is complicated," he interrupted. "I know you're rebuilding, that you need time. But I also know I can't pretend I don't feel anything for you." His honesty was overwhelming. Jessica had suspected Nathan's feelings, but hearing him say it changed everything. "I feel something too," she admitted. "But you're right. The situation is complicated." "It doesn't have to be," Nathan said. "If you want, we can figure out together how to make it work." "What about your family?" Jessica asked. "And Brandon?" "My mother already gave you her blessing." Nathan smiled. "And as for Brandon, he lost the right to have a say in your life when he abandoned you." "You're right," Jessica said, feeling courage grow inside her. "So?" Nathan asked. "Would you like to try?" Jessica looked at the man in front of her. Nathan had been by her side through the worst moments of the last few months. He had supported her, encouraged her, made her feel valued. Most importantly, he loved her exactly as she was. "Yes," she finally said, "I want to try." The smile that spread across Nathan's face was the most beautiful thing Jessica had seen in a long time. "But let's take it slow," she added. "I want to do this right." "Whatever you want," Nathan agreed. "We have all the time in the world." They spent the rest of the afternoon walking through the small town, talking about their feelings, their fears, and their hopes for the future. It was different from any conversation Jessica had ever had with a man. There was no pressure, no judgment, just mutual honesty. By the time they returned to the city, it was already night, but Jessica felt energized rather than tired. For the first time since the marriage disaster, she was genuinely excited about the future. "Thank you for today," she said, when Nathan dropped her off at home. "Thank you for giving us a chance," he replied. "Nathan," she called before he left. "Yes?" "I think I'm falling in love with you," she admitted. "I'm already in love with you," he answered. The kiss they shared was gentle and full of promises for the future. In the days that followed, Jessica felt like she was living in a dream. Work was going well, her personal life was settling down, and now she had the possibility of new love. She told Emily about the developments with Nathan. "Finally," Emily exclaimed. "I was wondering when you two would realize what was obvious to everyone else." "It was obvious?" Jessica asked, surprised. "Jess, the way he looked at you at the party, how he cared for you. Even a blind person could see he was interested," Emily said. "Why didn't you ever say anything?" Jessica asked. "Because you needed to come to that conclusion on your own," Emily replied, "and in your own time." Jessica also told her parents about Nathan. Barbara and Robert were happy with the news. "We've always liked Nathan," Barbara said. "He's very different from his brother." "We just want you to be happy, sweetheart," Robert added. "And if he makes you happy, you have our blessing." Jessica and Nathan's first official date was simple but perfect. They went to see a romantic comedy at the movies, then had dinner at a small, cozy Italian restaurant. "Is this weird?" Jessica asked as they walked hand in hand after dinner. "What?" Nathan asked. "Us," she clarified, "considering the whole history with your brother." "It's not weird to me," Nathan replied. "It feels natural, like it was always meant to be this way." "That's how I feel too," Jessica admitted. "Then let's not worry about what others think," Nathan said. "What matters is how we feel." His simple wisdom reassured her. She had spent so much time worrying about others' opinions that she had nearly forgotten to prioritize her own happiness. Over the following weeks, Jessica and Nathan's relationship developed naturally and healthily. They spent time together without pressure, each maintaining their independence while building something special together. One evening, while having dinner at Jessica's apartment, she asked a question that had been on her mind for a while. "Nathan, do you think I've changed a lot since we met?" she asked. "How do you mean?" he replied. "Physically," she clarified. "I've gained a lot of weight over the years." Nathan stopped eating and looked directly at her. "Jessica, you're beautiful," he said. "You always have been, you still are, and you always will be. Your weight doesn't define your beauty or your worth." "But don't you think I should lose weight?" she pressed. "I think you should do what makes you happy and healthy," Nathan answered. "If losing weight is something you want to do for yourself, for your health and well-being, I support you. But if it's to please others, or because you think you have to fit some standard, then no." His answer was exactly what Jessica needed to hear. Throughout her relationship with Brandon, she had felt pressured to change her appearance. With Nathan, she felt accepted exactly as she was. "Thank you," she said, "for accepting me as I am." "It's not acceptance," Nathan corrected. "It's love. I love you exactly as you are." It was the first time he had said, "I love you," directly, and the words touched Jessica's heart deeply. "I love you too," she replied, realizing it was completely true. A few days later, Jessica had an unexpected surprise at work. Jennifer called her into an urgent meeting. "Jessica, the success of your project has caught the attention of the National Board," Jennifer said. "What do you mean?" Jessica asked. "They're impressed with your leadership and creativity," Jennifer explained. "And they'd like to offer you a position at the company's headquarters in New York." The offer was tempting. A much better salary, professional prestige, growth opportunities. But it would also mean leaving Portland, leaving her family, leaving Nathan. "It's an incredible opportunity," Jessica said. "Can I think about it?" "Of course," Jennifer replied. "But I need an answer by next week." Jessica left the meeting with her head spinning. It was exactly the kind of opportunity she had always dreamed of, but the timing was complicated. That night, she told Nathan about the offer. "It's an incredible opportunity," he said, though she could see sadness in his eyes. "But it would mean moving to New York," Jessica said. "I know," Nathan replied, "and you should take it." "What do you mean?" she asked, surprised. "Jessica, you've worked your whole life for a moment like this," Nathan explained. "You can't pass it up because of me." "But what about us?" she asked. "We'll figure it out," Nathan said, though he didn't sound very convincing. "Nathan, be honest with me," Jessica pleaded. "Do you think a long-distance relationship would work?" He thought for a long moment before answering. "I don't know," he admitted. "But I know you'd regret it forever if you didn't try this opportunity." His honesty was painful, but Jessica appreciated that he didn't try to make the decision easier with false promises. "What if I don't take it?" she asked. "Then you don't take it," Nathan replied. "But let it be your decision, not a decision because of me." Jessica spent the next few days in agony, weighing the pros and cons. It was the professional opportunity of a lifetime, but it also meant giving up the first healthy relationship she'd ever had. She talked to her parents, to Emily, even to Mrs. Patricia. They all said the same thing: she should do what was best for her life. The night before she had to give an answer, Jessica and Nathan met for a final conversation. "I've decided," she said as soon as they sat down. "And what's your decision?" Nathan asked. "I'm turning down the offer," Jessica replied. "Jessica," Nathan began. "Let me finish," she interrupted. I'm saying no, not because of you, but because of me. I realize my life is here, my family, my friends, my new home, you. I don't want to start over somewhere else. Are you sure? Nathan asked. I am, Jessica answered. Besides, Jennifer told me there's a possibility of promotion right here at the Portland branch if I stay. Maybe it won't be as fast as going to New York, but it's steady growth. And you're at peace with this decision? Nathan asked. I am, Jessica confirmed. For the first time in a long while, I'm making a decision based on what I truly want, not what I think I should want. Nathan pulled her into a tight hug. I love you so much, he said, and I promise I'll make it worth your while for staying. You already do, Jessica replied. A few months later, Jessica's life had found a happy balance. Work was going well, her relationship with Nathan grew stronger every day, and she had rediscovered her joy for life. She had also started taking dance classes, something she'd always wanted to do but never had the courage for. Nathan encouraged her to sign up, and she discovered she had a knack for ballroom dancing. You're glowing, Emily remarked during one of their weekly meetups. I feel like I'm glowing, Jessica admitted. It's amazing how life can change in such a short time. You changed your life, Emily corrected. You made brave choices and built the happiness you deserve. Sometimes I still can't believe all of that happened, Jessica said, referring to the disastrous wedding. But if it hadn't, you wouldn't be where you are now, Emily pointed out. It was true. As painful as being left at the altar had been, it had led Jessica to a far better path than the one she'd been on with Brandon. A year after the wedding that never happened, Jessica received an unexpected invitation. It was to Taylor's wedding to another man. She's inviting me to her wedding? Jessica asked Nathan, showing him the invitation. Looks like it, Nathan replied. Are you going? I think so, Jessica decided. It would be a way to fully close that chapter. Taylor's wedding was simple and intimate, nothing like the extravagance Jessica had once planned for her own. But there was something beautiful in the simplicity, in focusing on real love rather than the spectacle. Thank you for coming, Taylor said when they met at the reception. Thank you for inviting me, Jessica replied. You look beautiful and so happy. I am, Taylor smiled, and you look happy too. I am, Jessica confirmed, glancing at Nathan, who was chatting with other guests. He's a special person, Taylor observed, following Jessica's gaze. He really is, Jessica agreed. You know, Taylor said, sometimes bad things happen to lead us where we're truly meant to be. You're right, Jessica answered. During the celebration, Jessica genuinely enjoyed herself. She danced with Nathan, chatted with other guests, and celebrated real love. It was a stark contrast to how she would have felt at her own wedding with Brandon, where there had always been pressure and anxiety. How are you feeling? Nathan asked as they drove home. Good, Jessica replied. Happy. For her, and happy for me too. For you? Nathan asked. For discovering the difference between a relationship based on expectations and one based on real love, she explained. 2 years after being left at the altar, Jessica was in a place she'd never imagined possible. She was a senior manager at her company, had bought a bigger apartment, maintained healthy relationships with family and friends, and had a partner who loved and respected her unconditionally. Nathan, she said one evening as they prepared dinner together in their apartment. He responded, focused on chopping vegetables. Thank you, she said. For what? He asked, looking up at her. For showing me what a healthy relationship looks like, Jessica explained. For loving me as I am, for being by my side when I needed you most. Nathan set down the knife and stepped closer to her. Jessica, he said, taking her hands, I'm the one who should be thanking you. You taught me what real love is too. How so? She asked. By seeing your strength, your ability to forgive, your courage to start over, Nathan explained. You inspired me to be a better person. They kissed there in the kitchen, surrounded by the aroma of the dinner they were preparing together, and Jessica felt deep gratitude for the entire journey that had led her to that moment. That night, after dinner, Nathan did something unexpected. He knelt in the living room and pulled a small box from his pocket. Jessica, he said, his voice trembling with emotion, I know you've been through this before in a terrible way, and I understand if you're not ready or if you never want to get married again." Jessica's heart raced. She hadn't been expecting this. "But," Nathan continued, "I love you more than I ever thought possible. You make me want to be better every day. I want to build a life with you, have a family with you, grow old by your side." Tears began to stream down Jessica's face. "Will you marry me?" Nathan asked, opening the box to reveal a simple but beautiful ring. Jessica looked at the man, kneeling before her, the man who had stood by her during her worst moments, who had encouraged her to rebuild herself, who loved her exactly as she was. "Yes," she said, her voice full of emotion. "Yes, I'll marry you." Nathan stood up and kissed her, and they both cried with happiness. "I promise it'll be different this time," Nathan said when they pulled apart. "I know," Jessica replied, "because you're different. We're different." Jessica and Nathan's wedding was the exact opposite of what she had planned with Brandon. Instead of 200 guests, they invited only 50 of their closest friends and family. Instead of an extravagant event, they chose a simple ceremony at the same church where Jessica had been humiliated years before. "Are you sure about the church?" Barbara asked as they finalized the preparations. "I am," Jessica answered. "I want to replace the bad memory with a good one." "I like that," Barbara smiled. "It's a powerful way to move forward." On the wedding day, Jessica felt completely different than she had years earlier. There was no anxiety, no pressure to be perfect. There was only love and certainty. When Nathan saw her walking into the church, his eyes filled with tears, not of sadness, but of pure joy. "You're beautiful," he said when she reached the altar. "Thank you," Jessica replied. "So are you." The ceremony was intimate and meaningful. Father William, the same priest who had witnessed the disaster years before, seemed especially moved. "It's a special joy to celebrate this moment," he said during the ceremony, "when we see two people who truly love and respect each other joining in marriage." During their vows, Jessica and Nathan spoke about their journey together, how they had found each other in their hardest moments and built something beautiful together. "Nathan," Jessica said in her vows, "you've taught me that true love doesn't ask us to change who we are. True love celebrates who we are and encourages us to be our best selves." "Jessica," Nathan replied, "you've shown me that strength isn't about never falling, but always getting back up. I promise to stand by you always, celebrating your victories and supporting you through challenges." When Father William declared them husband and wife, the kiss they shared was full of promises and true love. The reception after the ceremony was exactly as they wanted, relaxed, joyful, focused on celebrating love with the people who truly cared about them. "Speech! Speech!" The guests cheered when it was time for toasts. Nathan stood up first. "I want to thank everyone for being here today," he said. "But most of all, I want to thank my wife." The word wife sounded perfectly natural coming from him. "Jessica, you're the bravest person I know," Nathan continued. "Thank you for allowing me to be part of your journey." When it was Jessica's turn, she looked around at all the faces surrounding her. Family, true friends, people who had supported her during the toughest moments. "A few years ago," she began, "I thought I knew what love was. I believed love was about commitment and expectations and trying to be perfect for someone else. Today, I know I was completely wrong." She glanced at Nathan before continuing. "True love is about acceptance, support, and mutual growth. It's about having someone who loves you on your worst days and celebrates with you on your best. It's about real partnership, not just a beautiful wedding ceremony." The guests applauded, but Jessica wasn't finished. "I want to thank everyone who stood by me during one of the hardest phases of my life," she said. "And I especially want to thank Nathan, who showed me that waiting for true love is worth it." When the celebration ended and the newlyweds were finally alone, they sat on the balcony of the venue, still in their wedding attire, simply savoring the moment. "How do you feel?" Nathan asked. "Whole," Jessica replied. "For the first time in my life, I feel complete." "Me too," Nathan said. "And lucky to have you." "I'm the lucky one," Jessica corrected. "You saved me." "No," Nathan disagreed. "You saved yourself. I just had the privilege of being by your side while you did it." 3 years after marrying Nathan, Jessica reflected on her entire journey as she arranged the nursery for the baby she was expecting. Life had given her everything she'd ever wanted. A marriage built on true love, a thriving career, and now a growing family. "How are you feeling?" Nathan asked, entering the room with a cup of tea for her. "Anxious, excited, grateful." Jessica listed. "All at once." "That's normal," Nathan smiled. "I'm feeling all of that too." "Nathan," Jessica said, "sometimes I think about what would have happened if Brandon hadn't left me at the altar." "And what do you think?" he asked. "That I'd have lived a life that wasn't truly mine," she replied. "I'd have been unhappy, but maybe I'd never have realized it because I'd have been too busy trying to be perfect." "And now?" Nathan asked. "Now I know the difference between being in a relationship and being with the right person," Jessica said, "and I know I'm exactly where I'm meant to be." A few months later, as they held their newborn daughter in the hospital, Jessica thought about how life had a mysterious way of leading us where we need to be. "She's perfect," Nathan said, gazing at the baby in his arms. "She is," Jessica agreed, "and she'll grow up knowing she deserves to be loved exactly as she is." "Just like her mother learned," Nathan added. Years later, when telling her daughter how she'd met her father, Jessica always emphasized the same lesson. Sometimes the worst things that happen to us are actually redirections to something far better. "Was Uncle Brandon really mean to you, Mommy?" the girl would ask. "Uncle Brandon was lost," Jessica would reply, "and sometimes lost people hurt others, but in the end, he did me a favor without realizing it." "What favor?" the girl would ask. "He set me free." "To find Daddy," Jessica would answer, "and to discover who I really am." End of story. Now tell us what you thought of the story and where you're watching from. If you have something to share with us, leave your honest thoughts in the comments. Do you think Jessica made the right decisions? We'd love to hear your opinion. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other heartfelt stories.